All right, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to Hashtag Our Guys Live, building the clown world. With me, as always, this evening, I have my co-host, Jason. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing swell. Thank you for asking, sir.
I'm glad to have you back. I know it's been a while since we've done Our Guys, and with us we have a special guest, our first Our Guys special guest, LBRY. How are you doing this evening?
I'm very tired. It's been an extremely long year, but I'm grateful that you dragged me out here, John.
Yes, I'm glad to have you here. The title of the show is Building the Clown World because of the subjective reality mess that we're entering in with the Great Reset and the Great Awakening and the memetic warfare that drove that stupid clown world meme into existence. And other memes too as well. When we jumped from funnies and interesting topics to memetic warfare and chaos magic, and we're seeing reality break down in a lot of ways. So it's going to be very interesting to see what comes of this transition. But I mean, what do you guys see? I mean, this year's been one of the strangest years. You know, Trump was, as Lance Wallenew put him, God's chaos candidate. And in a lot of ways, he was Lucifer's chaos candidate. And things have been absurd, and it looks like we're going back to normalcy Biden, and things are going to be a little boring. As they're building the clown world that we're moving into. What do you guys think?
I think you're getting a mirror reflection of Dugan. You know, his memetic game has bounced back on him on the world around us, and that they're trying to structure, like I said to you earlier, they're removing the fog of war of normal chaos. And they're building what we've been calling like the Meet the Press, Jim McLehrer News Hour kind of red team, blue team, where we're not actually going to be talking about what did Trump tweet at 3 o'clock in the morning. We're going to be talking about this is why abortion is good or bad. This is why taxes are good or bad. This is why we should invade this country or not. You hate the country if you oppose this institution. You love the country if you support this institution. It's trying to simulate a predictable, reliable, repeatable, known universe, when in fact we know that actually there are several moving parts, and that a lot of this is controlled, and a lot of this is manipulated. But those who point out that, actually a mutual friend of ours, I commented, they're basically trying to censor anyone who says David Copperfield isn't really making the Statue of Liberty disappear. They're just going after the people who are yelling in the crowd how it's done, which is kind of what we are. Proceed, Mr. LBRY.
Yeah, I'd very much agree with the spirit of what you're saying there. I mean, it's pretty hard to follow and act like the 21st century's reinvented P.T. Barnum.
Yeah, sucker's born there for a minute, huh?
I don't think we've seen an entertainer quite as masterful and captivating as Donald Trump since. Um, and as we have spiraled further and further into the abyss, it's shocking to me that they're actually trying to play this card of like going back to some sense of normalcy or some sense of coherence. I don't personally. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think most of the people are going to buy it. I think there's a large populist movement that has the potential of rising up in response to the pokings and proddings of this this next move here. And I think that's kind of what they want, and I think that's kind of what they're anticipating. My view has been for the last year that as we transition through this, the shift is going to be more towards holding some sort of a gravitational pull towards the center and turning the guns outward towards both the far left and the far right, and eliminating them from the public discourse and making them some sort of a public enemy or a national threat.
Yeah, I definitely could see that. As polarized as everyone is, no one can have an open discussion anymore. I mean, that's what they need. I mean, they've been working on building the clown world. They've been working on trying to attempt to destroy agreement realities, which are realities that most of the population agrees upon. Which, you know, there could be faults in some of those agreement realities, do not get me wrong. But it is the fabric of what makes a society or a civilization. So they've been trying to tear down the whole key work of subjective reality to try to influence objective reality, but Satan should know better. You're not going to be able to affect God's will because, you know, it's unchangeable. But, you know, that's why we're getting things to the point where they've become absurd, and they will continue to become absurd. And they're trying, with Biden being president, they're trying to grasp hold of what little normalcy. Maybe they pulled the plug a little bit too quickly by putting Trump in, the chaos candidate, the Aquarian candidate. Who knows? But they're trying to go, whoa, no, not yet, you know. Slow it down. And that is, you know, and usually we expect that out of the CNP Fabian socialists, right? But no, we're actually getting it from the, you know, more communist, CFR, you know, globalist left in some ways. So it's quite interesting to see that they are the ones calling for standards and norms when the conservatives are usually the ones calling for standards and norms. So, what do you guys think? Sawboy B, Jason, I'll lose you guys.
Sorry, no, I'm here. I was on mute accidentally. Well, I'm not sure quite what to expect in some ways. I'm interested in, personally, and maybe this is a little bit of an aside, but I'm interested in people's response to the current vast medical imposition, or the vast medical situation which has imposed itself upon society. Like I'm interested in sort of reading the public's response, and I go into, I have clients, just normal, regular, everyday people from all different walks of life, and I have a job where I end up going into their homes on a regular basis, and it's, you know, I go into 8, 9, 10 homes a day. What's interesting to me is to read sort of people's actual response to all of the pressures that have been imposed upon them. Like this country has been turned into an open air science experiment both psychologically, physiologically,
Spiritually,
and yeah,
by principalities,
yeah. But the general meme that I'm hoping to get a beat on is, it reminds me of the fall apart of the Soviet Union. You hear stories about how, nobody believed the media. Everybody knew Pravda was a load of shit. They laughed at the media that was put out to them. And we're approaching a similar time right now,
Yeah.
except for the media has such an impressive presence, and it's not just the news media; it's every institution, which is reinforcing all of these beliefs and values that we're supposed to uphold, and they punish with the stick if you don't adhere or fall in line. But most people still, even under the weight and the pressure, people really just they don't buy most of it. They go along to get along, but in their own private world, they're still like, I come into their homes and they don't feel the need for me to wear a mask. They aren't going to open up to me ideologically most of the time and have a big conversation about the way they actually see things in the world. But in small little signals and in small little expressions, they intimate as much, but they don't want to take that extra step to engage with in the content or in the issue at hand. They're still reserved enough and afraid enough not to breach. So everyone's in their own personal, private, ideological prison. And I think a lot of people feel very lonely.
Yeah, because online we're stuck in our digital ghettos, as Jesse Spots used to say. And it's becoming more and more evident as people move to Parler, for example, away from Twitter, which is almost a conservative echo chamber of Q memes and Bongino report and all that, and it's a complete echo chamber in there.
And I live in a Democrat state, mind you, so it's not like, I'm in in cornfields and guys with big trucks driving around all over the place. I'm going into well-to-do, presumably predominantly Democrat voting, not necessarily aligned with all of the Democrats' policies. But I think that's extremely interesting.
Yeah.
It says a lot, because a lot of the people that I work for also work for government contractors. They work for the government itself. And they're kind of just shrugging it all off, personally. But when they go out in the public, you better believe they're going to put the mask on. They're going to stand with the crowd. And that's what I hope to figure out, how to appeal to, or what can we do to break through that false wall that that they've built up between us all.
Yeah, you're right. It's going to be tough, but they succeeded in doing that. And some people could argue that the Second American Civil War has already begun, sadly and tragically. But I guess we'll see. First starting, one thing I guess we could mention with everything is Trump asked Ted Cruz to argue Texas election lawsuit if it reaches the Supreme Court. Jason, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on Teddy Boy Cruz walking down the Senate aisles with his little cowboy hat on, and I've come for the delegates, Donald, because we're talking about building the clown world here. Tell us why we don't think this is going to end up happening.
Well, first of all, I've often wondered. I know senators are prohibited from practicing the profession while serving during the time. I'm not even sure if he could do that, but maybe somebody who's a better expert on Article 2 restrictions could confirm that or not. I mean, he first offered, obviously, for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court case. I suspected that was a sign it was going to be dismissed. This is probably largely in response to the fact that Ollie Alexander, who's become very infamous for Stop the Steal, being Roger Stone's face man, was criticizing Ted Cruz for not being in Georgia. Even Dan Crenshaw made a token appearance at the rally on Saturday.
You mean World Economic Forum and Dan Crenshaw, right?
Right.
Okay,
We will get into that. We will get into the details on that. It was a very startling discovery. Probably should have been staring everyone in the face, but Ted Cruz was posting that iconic picture of himself hunting deer in South Texas the day that was going on. Ted Cruz is indicating he wants to run for president, so I think what Trump is trying to do in all of these things, since he made his reappearance at the rally on Saturday, I think what he's trying to do is exert future influence on the party.
Mm-hmm.
That he won't go away. He'll be able to pick who wins, who loses, what happens. He's also establishing, so if the Senate race goes bad, he's not the fault. He's publicly said it would be the fault of Brian Kemp and David Raffensperger. So this is all an exercise. So Ted Cruz, I imagine at this point, is being drawn in because people do know his presidential aspirations in 4 years, which could, if Trump does actually run, would, put him in another primary. We remember how well that went. So this is sort of a litmus test. But again, I don't think Ted Cruz is going to argue the case.
No, and Cruz isn't likable, and Cambridge Analytica was originally pushing Cruz to very begin with in the CMP before they went with Trump, if you believe that narrative. And we also got to remember too, Trump accused Cruz's father of helping Lee Harvey Oswald. And so I think it was Cruz's
not just
Raphael
Cruz.
The pastor. We're gonna say.
Let's tell the whole story.
Okay, go ahead.
That was David Pecker in the National Enquirer.
Yeah, true.
That was David Pecker in the National Enquirer with commentary from Roger Stone, including the 5 affair things, which accused, among others, Amanda Carpenter, Katrina Pearson, and Sarah Isger Flores. I don't remember who the other 2 were off the top of my head, but that was in conjunction with 2 esteemed collegiates, which, if you remember, Ted Cruz did the whole quoting Michael Douglas in Wisconsin with Scott Walker about, don't go after Heidi or whatever you're not good enough for, and then Trump did the tweet about, he's quoted, and that caused all those issues. So I mean, this is the genuine relationship they still have. Ted Cruz barely got reelected to the Texas Senate by 2.75%. That's a horrifically bad margin. And I'm just going to say it was not because Robert Francis O'Rourke was that great a candidate, despite what people say. Greg Abbott won his election, I think, by 13 points. John Cornyn won his election by 10 points. It's just that Ted Cruz sucks that bad. And this is to try to reestablish himself with the party base, and Trump is further doing this sadomasochistic kink game that he does with him.
And so what about
That's all this is.
One last thing I want to get a Assemblée.
Yeah, he's like a hobo hitching a ride on the train.
One last thing I want to I want your opinion on Assemblée. But I want to ask Jason one more thing. What about Kirkland and Ellis? Threatening the Trump lawyers, and then was it Scalia that interfered with the Philadelphia, pretty much saying the Supreme Court's not going to take the Philadelphia case. I got that right? That Kirkland and Ellis pretty much been shooting everything down and controlling it from behind the scenes and being like, "No, you done. No, Kavanaugh will rule with us. What are you doing?"
It wouldn't be Scalia. It would be, Pennsylvania's the Third Circuit. That's under Alito's domain, and I think Texas is in the. Let me confirm which I should know. Actually,
yeah. Why did I say? Why the hell did I say Scalia?
Because they're
he's dead. I meant Alito. My bad.
That was the association made during his confirmation, is that he would
Sorry, I don't. That was a really bad mistake on my part. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's fine. I don't think it's Alito who shot it down, though. I do suspect from the sidelines. I suspect Barrett said she would probably recuse herself just because of all the accusations. And yes, obviously Kavanaugh and Gorsuch would rule against it. So Roberts had the cover to dismiss it. I think only Clarence Thomas and Alito at this point are like solid Trump. At least in terms of hearing and the way they're dismissing, the media is so misrepresenting it. People are, assuming what they're saying is, no, none of this evidence stands up. That's irrelevant. The way they're dismissing it is they're saying that the suit's being filed, like by Sidney Powell and a number of these people, since they're not actual injured parties, they don't have standing to file the suit. They can't file on behalf of other aggrieved parties. Now that begs the question, well, how would the voters? There's not a mechanism for voters to contest it. You couldn't file before because they said there was no aggrieved party. You can't file after because they say that, well, you're not the person, they've kind of, and I know we're kind of jumping ahead on some of these cases. I just don't see this going through. The transition for Biden is being set up. He might as well be president-elect. I know it's not official, but it's going to happen. He's going to be sworn in. So let's not pretend like Trump's saying. Yeah, Google, did you hear that? And second of all, I don't think they want to establish a precedent where citizens can contest elections. I think the courts want to close that. I think they want to keep it an institutional in-house thing. I think that future presidential primaries, the Democrats did a much better job in this primary in blocking Bernie Sanders with Shadow and Pete Buttigieg in Iowa. And then, they got a little sloppy in New Hampshire, but they managed to boost Amy Klobuchar enough to suck up enough of the women's vote. Now, he did surprise everyone by winning Nevada. Harry Reid was not able to interfere in that. The Hispanic vote went very solid for Sanders. But after that, it was pretty much a clean sweep.
And Sanders was fine with it, by the way.
Yeah, Sanders knows all this stuff, and he's fine with it. He knows that they were basically doing the field test. I don't want to mention any software programs or anything, but there's some evidence that was used in some of the machines in the 2016 election. He knew about it. He was fine with it. But they sort of tested the mechanism, and a lot of people said, well, if the Republicans had done something similar. Now, they don't do proportionate representation like Democrats do. They do a lot of winner takes all. That's probably going to disappear. Definitely, I don't think the Democrats are going to do Iowa, New Hampshire as the first states. They're probably going to start with California in the next election. And you're just going to see further changes to remove the illusion of choice. And for all the people who go on about the popular vote, let me remind everyone that the popular vote doesn't apply in primaries, and they're fine with that. Barack Obama did not win the popular vote in 2008 over Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump won a plurality. He did not win the majority of. He won 43% in the 2016. So I mean, just the number of contradictions that people bring up. It's always been a controlled stage on the federal, particularly on the national
selection.
And it's going to stay that way. They're not going to do anything. They're only going to increase the ways to generate a predetermined outcome. It's just the Republicans did get a little sloppy. Paul Manafort managed to keep Ted Cruz from stealing delegates. John Kasich did not drop out of the race. Now, that probably helped in Ohio, which is a winner-take-all state, but that completely screwed them everywhere else. But they wanted Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio can't convince anybody to vote for him. I have no idea how he got reelected in Florida. There's a number of things, but the Democrats, they had everybody drop out all at the same time, except for Elizabeth Warren, who stayed in to second that Bernie vote. And then, so you're just going to see a further implication of this. But the reason I'm making this point, I don't see a situation legalistically where the Supreme Court is going to set a precedent. This is very important for anyone to claim they have standing to contest an election, because if they do that, that would just reopen all kinds of madness.
And what remedy? Redo the election? Discard all those votes? No part of its own?
Yeah, discarding the votes would be my guess. If this case does go to SCOTUS, it might go. I haven't written off the fact they are so infuriated by the fact that John Roberts partially undid part of the Voting Rights Act, which required certain precincts that had, quote unquote, a history of voter disenfranchisement, some of which are in Wisconsin, by the way, and Indiana. They're not all in the South. But he said that was discriminatory to do that. In order to ameliorate himself, I actually do think that he will say the majority opinion, which is this would be voter disenfranchisement, which would violate the precedent. I mean, there's not many ways you're going to thread this needle. So Biden's going to be sworn in. Okay,
Yeah.
let's just establish that.
Mhm.
Yeah. What do you got to say, Ensemble V?
Well, I can't argue with Jason's analysis there. I think he's spot on for the most part. I wouldn't expect anything from the Supreme Court. I think that it's part of the whole gambit to have, in Trump's term, made a heavier conservative presence on the Supreme Court, so that conservatives, as they're getting steamrolled, still think that somebody's there for them when they're not going to be there for them at all. And they'll find technicalities and excuses for not hearing cases or ruling in the favor of or ruling against what the conservative base is expecting them to do, and they're going to be disappointed over and over and over and over again. But they've already been primed with the 43 ring circus paradigm that they're supposed to view politics through nowadays, because they've been enlightened to the and shown the truth, right? With all this Q movement stuff, they've been primed for how they're going to have to cope with politics moving forward, as it continues to deliver absolutely nothing for them. It's kind of funny to watch the Trump circus roll out of town, and like I said earlier, Cruz is just like this funny clown with he's got like a 3-day shadow beard growing through his circus mask or circus paint, but he's just like hopping onto the train and sitting on top of it, waving at you as you look at him driving away. He's not going to sit there and defend this in court in Texas or anything. I mean, it's all really laughable, and all these grifters getting their money bags and shoveling them into the boxcars, saying we'll be back next year. It's really sad and depressing and disappointing. I hope that all those conservatives and true believers out there don't have a complete, lapse into extreme depression, because we need them out on the front lines. We need them awake and aware and ready to, stand for what they believe in.
Following First Amendment protections on addressing grievances with the government, but upholding state municipal zoning requirements, getting, of course, Mr. Ensemble V, nonviolent demonstrations. That's what people need to be on the front lines doing. I did want to point out very briefly that there is a bittersweetness to how you phrase that with Trump, implying he'll be back again. Do you remember when Ted Cruz finally dropped out after losing Indiana? How he released that short clip? I think that was the one where Carly Fiorina fell through the stage or whatever. He released that short clip about to be continued, and it showed like the Cruz bus going off into the sunset back to Texas. The irony that we're making the same play 4 years later with Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both thinking it's going to be me. It's not going to be Ted Cruz. I don't know about the orange guy, but Ted Cruz is never going to be president.
No, not a chance. What else is in the news?
Well, can I briefly say something, since I was disposed during the commentary introducing this? I found a really great quote today that I think summarizes our current state of affairs. Because everything basically is institutionalism at this point. If anybody's familiar with the commentary John and I did on William Barr, they shouldn't be surprised by his actions. The whole non-activity going from Jeff Sessions, John Huber, Michael Horowitz, the incidents with James Comey and Robert Mueller, Rod Rosenstein, Christopher Wray and the FBI. I'd actually spoken about the establishment of discrediting any kind of populist opposition on before we recorded.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to remind people of a quote by Senator Daniel Inouye during the Iran-Contra hearings in the 1980s, something that you will never see in the mainstream media for the next 4 years, as they attack everything as being QAnon-related, and Q is an elaborate constructed hoax. Let's not be ambiguous there, but just these terms they use to dismiss anybody trying to point out the reality of everything. This is from esteemed Medal of Honor winner Daniel Inouye, member of the Senate from Hawaii, Democrat. There exists a shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances, and free from the law itself. Now, this was made to, at the time, Marine Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North when justifying why it was okay for him, through an intermediary, to sell missiles to Iran to fund Contras to circumvent Congress's prohibition on that. But if you were to cite this example at any time of how the government operates today and to question institutions in any way, you'll be dismissed as a conspiracy theorist, dangerous, and somebody who's not accepting reality. And I just wanted to do tonight's episode in that spirit. So let's proceed with the next story then.
Yes. So Eric Swalwell has a supposed relationship with a supposed Chinese spy named Feng Feng. I know I've been seeing people, on Twitter going crazy over this. What are your thoughts, Jason? I'll start with you about Swalwell. You know more about this, way more about this than I do. But
I know what Tucker Carlson told me. I mean, Eric Swalwell has been, people like Mike Cernovich have been hinting back in, I guess it was like 2017, 2018, we had the whole Me Too going on, and there was talk about Paul Ryan with sheltering the taxpayer-funded lawsuit harassment charges. I think the only one that there were a couple that actually did become public, but the main one was obviously John Conyers. Cernovich likes to brag about that. Thank you for getting Rashida Tlaib elected to Congress for life, Mike. But he kept on hinting that he'd heard something about an issue with Swalwell, so he just assumed it was that. But actually, from what we now understand, it turns out to be this incident. Eric Swalwell, when he was on the city council, was apparently engaged in this liaison. Feng Feng, I guess she was part of a sex ring, classic honeypot operation. She targeted 2 California mayors. She was trying to embed herself predominantly with the Democratic Party. I actually wonder if Leland Yee was caught up in that before he got arrested for trying to sell Indonesian rocket launchers. But, and Swalwell is currently right outside the Bay Area. Okay, California's 15th congressional district. So, he's in that Silicon Valley, and I find ironic he's actually Scott Adams, congressman, famous Dilbert guy who tells us what a great master persuader Trump is all the time. And I just want to remind people just to know about Scott Adams, where he really lies. Eric Swalwell got engaged in a Twitter discussion with a constituent about the Second Amendment. The member said, kind of the Mullen lobby argument, and Swalwell responded, well, the federal government has nuclear weapons. Everybody kind of knew how to react to that. And Scott Adams actually said, no, he's just describing the scope of the government and your chances against him in that event. And everybody else is saying, no, he's threatening to use nuclear weapons on civilians. But, and then Scott Adams said, no, you're misunderstanding the persuasion. And Eric Swalwell appears in his mentions saying, yeah, see, listen to him. So just, want to make that point. But the main thing I'm getting from the story, half of them probably do have blackmailable. Swalwell is part of a cabal of people, including Adam Schiff, Ted Lieu, say Jerry Nadler to some extent, who really have no function in government other than they were really attracted to the Mueller story. They all implied they had seen evidence that Trump had colluded with Russia to steal the election in 2016. Obviously, we all know at least what the Wiseman report had to say about that, which is that did not occur. So he's sort of become a non-entity. And the story was more or less contained until after the election, I think, to establish sort of journalistic credibility, very similar to how Rod Blagojevich trying to sell Barack Obama's seat became public after the 2008 election. It's just one of those things. I don't think he's going to be forced to resign from Congress. I don't think he's going to have to step down from the Intelligence Committee, at least in the next 2 years. I think he's going to be a lifetime member of Congress. But they will make some show of this just to say, well, we're holding people accountable for things. And obviously Tucker Carlson and people in kind of Bannon's orbit who want to sell this whole idea that China is the biggest problem. They're obviously running like this with mad to say, well, this is why they were accusing a sitting president of colluding with a foreign government, because that's in fact what they are. Well, they're all colluding with the foreign government, or of some kind. Some are probably colluding with multiple, but I think it's something that once upon a time would have mattered. I just think it's filler at this point.
Yeah, I'd agree. There's not much more I could add to that. I think it's pretty clear. They're just dusting the house and fluffing up the pillows.
Yeah, sorry guys, I've been on mute. So my neighbor messaged me and said that she found a little kitten outside and freezing in the cold. So they have dogs, so they couldn't take care of this little gray little kitten. So I brought him into the shed. He's awfully friendly.
Aww.
Little sucker. So I might try to find whose he is. I might end up keeping him, but he's a good little boy. So.
Kittens get clicks. Give us a pic.
I will. I might post him on Twitter if anybody cares. But I couldn't let the poor little boy freeze out there to death. So he's all looking around the shed right now, getting into trouble. I got him a little can of cat food for the other kitties, but I guess
how big is it?
Oh, it's very small. He must be I want to say maybe 3 months old. So couldn't let the poor boy freeze out there. It's below freezing out here. So. But
that's pretty cool.
All right, so let's play this Biden-Harris presidential transition clip and break down some of the transition members. Talk about Build Back America Back. So, let's start.
I am Alejandro Mayorkas.
Avril Haines.
John Kerry.
Uh-oh. John Kerry's going to be climate advisor. Oh, Jake Sullivan.
Jake Sullivan. Tony Blinken.
Oh, Tony Blinken.
Thomas Greenfield.
We have to be relentless in keeping our country and our people safe from the traditional threats, but we also have to have a broader vision for what national security means in the 21st century.
Cybersecurity.
Corruption.
Pandemic disease that we're living through now. The climate crisis is a national security threat. This is going to be front and
John
center.
Kerry looks like a
as
corpse. He looks like a living
national
corpse.
security issue for this administration and for the world. Not a single one of the really big problems that we face can be met fully by any one country acting alone.
You need your allies, you need your partners, you need your friends.
America at its best still has a greater ability than any country on earth to bring
Blinken's
other
like
countries
heavily
together in common
corrupted
cause.
with China.
Multilateralism is back. Diplomacy is back. Democracy is back. America is back.
How
Oh,
we tackle threats
America's
defines who we
That means
are
we're going
as
to
a
war.
nation, who we are
You guys ready?
as a people, and the
Invade
values
Syria?
that we hold dear. We intend to lead by demonstrating a commitment to those values, unwaveringly so.
Build Back Better. .gov. So how do you feel about America being back? Ensemble Vide, how do you feel about that? Thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, I just remember the last days of last administration and all the back and forth. I was intently listening on C-SPAN as John Kerry and various others, Barack Obama, would get up and preach about how we need to take action in Syria and this, that, and the other. And, I think a lot of amazing things have happened in the last 2 decades as far as party ideology is concerned. And you mentioned something earlier in our discussion tonight, which made me think about, yeah, you're right. Institutionalism. You're absolutely right. It's funny how Democrats have completely lost their nerve or even their interest.
It's who could virtue signal harder, Yeah,
they've lost their interest in challenging real power.
Yeah.
They've lost their interest in challenging the corporations and financial interests that take advantage of and drive and just leech and suck and destroy the value of our currency and the well-being and quality of life for normal individuals trying to make a living.
Yeah.
And they're now aligned with the establishment institutions, while still putting on this mask of being the oppressed and fighting for the underdogs. And meanwhile, they're in the midst of their slogans, they're saying, make sure you buy Coke, or make sure you pick up a Pepsi, or stop at a Starbucks. So I wasn't sure where I was going with that, but
you talk about how the left used to have
yeah.
the left used to have some semblance of things that we would agree on, right? Like fighting for the little man,
right.
and standing up to big corporations and local pollution instead of global pollution, kind of like this grandiose save the whales type stuff,
Right, and anti-war,
yes.
which we're going to see very shortly how anti-war the left actually is.
Yeah, when we invade Syria.
Yep. That's the point I was getting around to, is get ready for the left to be cheering for war.
As we invade Syria on the behest of Bibi Netanyahu, and that's going to be interesting, I guess. So, and Biden is putting a good amount of Catholics into his administration. And I mean, him being the second Catholic president we had, the first being John Fitzgerald Kennedy. And so the guy that they're choosing, Lloyd Austin, for Secretary of State, he is a Catholic. So I'm going to have to start breaking down. So we got Jesuit Fauci, we got Lloyd Austin. So I'm going to keep a Catholic tab for Biden. How many Catholics get into the administration? So I guess we'll see, huh? So
I guess, that would have been more of a relevant distinction, 50, 60 years ago, or 80 years ago. But I mean, if you've kept up on internal politics and dynamics within the Catholic Church over the last century, the Catholic Church is no longer the stalwart, conservative,
no.
Representative of tradition and the old order. They're quite the opposite. They're right up there. They sold out their integrity to be in on the new game. And so they're right up there with a lot of the elites, and they're ready to play their role for this new world order, for this new ecumenical peace that we're moving into, for healing the world, as it were. I don't know what the Latin is for heal the world, but I know another term for healing the world, tikkun olam.
Tikkun olam, yeah.
And they're right in there with it. Like that's their agenda. They're a progressive. I
guess the Catholic version would be works only, I guess, huh? So.
Munda Medicare is the Latin, or world Medicare.
Okay, so next we have Hunter Biden being under federal investigation for tax case.
What a surprise.
Shouldn't have they announced this before the election? but we're building the cloud world, right? So
Why would they?
yeah, Ray wouldn't do it like Comey did it, huh?
No, Ray dropped the FBI investigation. This is the Delaware State Attorney. That's all you need to know. It's a complete whitewash. I mean, if anything, Hunter Biden's going to get a fine. I just want to say the first thing I thought of this, because you got to remember, this is when Joe Biden was serving as the vice president. Everybody's going on about the emoluments clause. This is a straight up violation of the emoluments clause. He was receiving gifts. He was not paying taxes on them. He was using his father's position in the office of the vice presidency to do it. You will not see a single person that filed. I think Delaware is in the same circuit they were. I think it's in the Fourth Circuit. You will not see a single suit filed in this. So at best, if it's not just completely dismissed, they'll say that he owes back taxes. He's not going to prison. It's Fox News narrative isn't going anywhere. And I imagine a LLC connected to, Democratic bundling will say they're going to represent it, and Podesta will walk into the IRS with a briefcase, saying the Friends of the Democratic Party or whatever are here to cover whatever back taxes Mr. Biden did not remember to pay. He's not going to have the Manafort treatment. You're not going to have 27 FBI agents forcing him to sit in a cell in solitary with an ankle bracelet. It's to establish credibility of government accountability and journalistic investigation, even though, most people don't even know about the Hunter Biden issues, except for people who watch anything related to Steve Bannon, who was pushing this as the Hail Mary to get Trump.
And Bernard Kerik, and it never came into fruition. It didn't have the backs of Julian Assange, and say what you want to say about Assange and WikiLeaks. It didn't have the cloud of the Podesta emails. It didn't have the journalism integrity behind it. It was America's mayor, Rudolph Giuliani, who everybody knows is deeply involved in 9/11. Bernard Kerik, who sold us out as an Iraqi interior minister to an Israeli billionaire and was pardoned later by Trump. And the whole Steve Bannon, it's the whole gang. No one trusted them and no one liked them, so it didn't go anywhere.
Well, and I think the big drop was it was related to like a Ukrainian official, and it was tied up to the trial of Poroshenko there. So obviously you've got this Burisma connection that the media does not want to cover. The New York Post did run an investigation, and Twitter banned it, Facebook banned it. It is a legitimate news outlet. The New York Post was founded by Alexander Hamilton. Now it is owned by Rupert Murdoch. I do want to make that disclosure. There is a vested interest there to kind of be like, hey, Trump, we're not totally against you, before they called Arizona on election night too soon. But it didn't affect the election, but there is legitimacy to the claims. And probably I'd estimate 60 to 65% of the population, this is the first they're even hearing about it, just simply because they did effectively filter it. You did not have the mass Gamergate type of proliferated operation that ran with the Podesta emails, where everybody was wondering how you make risotto and what the hell is Marina Abramovich and spirit cooking. You didn't have that kind of thing going on with this.
No, they've mopped things up pretty well since then. It's weird to look back at those days as, almost being like the Wild West, and we're only a couple of years from that point, but they've cinched things up so tight and so blatantly too, for anybody who's been looking around and peering into these different avenues of information. There's and different voices coming from different sectors. Those, unless you're really digging and have been around for a while, you wouldn't know they were there.
has to have her own special scent.
Oh, thank you. Maybe you could tell me what you think of this scent.
I like that.
This may be the best of all. Oh, you dirty boy, you. Oh. Donald, I thought you were a gentleman.
You can't say I didn't try. Mayor Giuliani, he's given away over $2 billion in corporate wealth.
So just remember that. Remember that Giuliani's leaking oil as reality's breaking down, and the whole skip between him and Trump back in the day. So
I have to say, Rudy Giuliani did prove that Donald Trump knew what he was talking about when he said that, they let you do it, because Rudy did not.
That's whoosh.
There we go.
It is getting silly.
Ladies, you like Rudolph. I also want to congratulate Rudolph Giuliani for successfully exiting the hospital today for his coronavirus treatment. So I'm just glad that Rudy will be around to continue gaining the spotlight, offering dangling the tantalizing hope that, somehow the election will go the way that people who are in denial of how the inauguration in January 20th is going to happen. So keep hope alive, Rudy.
Grifting, likely being pardoned.
Just walking around the rubble of New York, not telling people the reason that he was heroically walking around on 9/11 was because he put the Terror Response Center at the base of the World Trade Center, and where he normally would have been in such an event was buried under rubble.
Yep. So next we have an article by Mark Judge on December 4th, 2020 about Candace Owens. So they Bannon told Mark Judge, of course Mark Judge is also friends of Brett Kavanaugh when they were young adults. He shows up back again. Of course, Mark Judge was also a journalist during Gamergate. Bannon was really big on Gamergate, really big in gaming culture. There's also I tried to look for them, but they've been scrubbed. Mark Judge had taken pictures of himself on Facebook with women that were Asian unknown of their age, wearing scantily clad outfits, reading and holding books like the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and stuff like that and everything. So yeah, Mark Judge is a little weird, and Bannon told him, "Hey, get out there and do something. Get out there and get out there and write an article, which you haven't wrote one in a while, to defend Candace Owens of Turning Point USA. Charlie Kirk, CMP, Turning Point USA." So any thoughts to this, Jason and Assembly V?
It sounds like Mark Judge has a lot in common with Eric Swalwell. The reason this jumped out of interest to me, this was actually an article linked by John Nolte of Breitbart to this, kind of fake controversy with Candace Owens and Harry Styles. If people care about the culture wars, I do want to make a point that Harry Styles did respond on Instagram to Candace with the nappy-headed hose, and he spelled hose like Heaux. People might remember the late Don Imus lost his radio show and is in the spot for that very phrase. Nothing will happen to Harry Styles, just if you want to take notes. But I just found it ironic that they pulled Mark Judge out of mothballs when, he was apparently just too distraught to publicly testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee during the Brett Kavanaugh hearings. It just would have wrecked the poor guy and his history of alcoholism for him to make a public appearance. But now he seems to be ready to carry the fight from the shadows. So Steve Bannon's say anything about him, he's willing to dig to the very pit of the ninth circle of hell to find whatever. He's going away, Steve. You're not getting that pardon, buddy.
No, you done messed up. You didn't get the Hunter Biden laptop out there good enough. That's why he's up there yelling, "Stop the steal" as much as he possibly can. And yeah, I really did look for articles that were covering that about Mark Judge, but they were not there. They scrubbed them off the internet. If anybody can find them, put it in the comment section below, because I couldn't find it. So it's very interesting that this website is
Big Problems with Big Tech by Ken Blackwell. I just have to point that out.
Yeah. I was gonna mention that. Of course, you got Dennis Prager, the ardent Zionist. You know, spoke to the CNP, America, Google, in my Senate speech. Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano, the anti-pope, President Trump. The conspiracy is real. Chat. Light and darkness. The battle of light and darkness. He's the QAnon Pope, Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano.
We're saying that metaphorically.
Yes.
We in no way endorse QAnon.
No, not at all. No, not at all, Google. You listening? But he is the QAnon anti-pope that they want to replace Pope Francis. He will be possibly the next pope, because that's how it goes when you're building the clown world. He's going to take back the papacy and be fighting for us while Flynn's platform boosting him on Twitter, and everybody just fawns over Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano, that he is standing up for us, discussing about the global elite and the World Economic Forum and everything, and the battle of the children of light versus the children of the dark. So, oh boy, all of a sudden people are going to be trusting the papacy again when this man very likely becomes pope. Make the papacy great again. Put Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano as pope.
I've actually heard that what's more likely is Vigano will establish kind of a second anti-pope kind of position, sort of like the Middle Ages, where you had the Pope of Avignon, and that he and Francis will cancel each other out with excommunications. That's that they're going to declare Francis to be a Luciferian figure because he's promoting a globalist,
which he is, by the way. No, I'm not pro Francis. I don't know why anybody thinks that, but I'm not pro Carlo Maria Vigano either. It's a false dichotomy.
Right, I'm not saying you're pro Francis.
No, some people in the chat were.
Oh, well, they don't know what they're talking about then.
No.
But I was just going to say, that's actually what I've heard is in the board, is that Vigano is probably not going to be... There was some kind of blackmail. I don't know all the ins and outs of all the different cardinals involved in the various scandals. The one, I don't remember the guy off my head because he's been investigated going back to a Ratzinger. But he was for 11 years held in suspicion, and he's one of the 11 electors. He should have been pulled, and he wasn't, specifically to get Francis in. And now he's been reassigned. People who followed this more than I do might know the guy's name, but there's supposed to be some kind of crookedness to align the current Vatican structure with the Great Reset, the internationalist agenda, and this is sort of a way to continue to establish legitimacy as Catholicism becomes more of a Southern Hemispheric religion, so that you have a counter against it. It was sort of interesting with Joe Biden being the second Catholic presidential candidate that so far is being declared the electoral winner on the safe harbor date, that appeals to Catholicism were so prominent. And who's Trump's Catholic advisor? He's that prominent social media figure. Is it Taylor? What's his name? Something Taylor.
You might know more than me.
Well, I know that Ali was pushing him like every other.
You mean Sammy Davis Jr.?
Yeah, Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy Davis, the glass-eyed Satanist. Charles Marshall.
Both Ali and Sammy Davis. I remember that's how when Ali banned me on Twitter, because I was like, "Hey Ali, you keep saying you look like Sammy Davis Jr. You know Sammy Davis Jr. was a Satanist, right?" He's like, "No, he's a Jew." And then he banned me, so it was pretty funny.
Well, and since we're bringing up our good friend Sammy there, I do want to remind people that Sammy's been featured in both CNN and the Washington Post and a number of other news articles because the Arizona GOP retweeted a tweet of his that said something along the lines of "I'm prepared to die for my cause."
Yep, and then they were calling pretty much for martial law. So.
Right, and people are saying that was a threat to violent action, and the Arizona Secretary of State allegedly was ordering his arrest today during his presentation. Now, I see him tweeting 2 hours ago. I'm assuming he wasn't. But yeah, Ollie, who's kind of the center point of Stop the Steal, he's the public face, since Roger Stone does not have a full pardon at this point, and Andrew Weissman is saying charge him in 2021. So we'll see what Trump does there. I'm guessing he does get the full pardon. But Ollie's been a very busy boy. He's been flying around quite a bit with Nick Fuentes and other people doing Ken Blackwell's handiwork on the side.
Yeah, it seems about right. You got anything to add, Assemble V? Did we lose Assemble V?
He might be taking a slide aside. I just see that like a lot of people are throwing Brad Parscale under the bus right now. Ken Blackwell does not like Brad Parscale, so now they're keeping hope alive. They're telling everybody, look at all these court challenges, aren't they great? And we all know. And since we've been talking about spiritual matters, I will read one of Sammy's tweets from 4 hours ago.
Oh, please do.
Some people are here to sell you dopamine, not me. I'm here to crash satanic systems.
Oh, okay.
His entire social media game is nothing but a running dopamine hit. It's to literally keep you high on hopium.
What, you mean grifting Christians? and being full of the Antichrist spirit and possibly being possessed? Oh, no. Not Sammy Davis Jr. Don't tell me it's so.
Ollie is working for free. He's just because he has a link to where you can contribute money to him. He's not asking for that. He wants you to contribute to Stop the Steal. He specifically is not running a sleazy LLC to appear for legitimacy. He said himself he could have set up a nonprofit, and he didn't want to do that. So if you just happen to click the link that goes to his personal account, that's nice. He needs flight tickets. Charlie Kirk can't be bothered to pay for all the travel. So just giving him a little help here and there because he's fighting to save the republic. And literally Christians will be rounded up and sent to gulags and killed if Trump does not become president, which I guess that means it's going to happen because we all know that Trump is not going to be the next president. I want to establish that.
Google, yes.
Sammy, our friend Sammy is really making a big splash right now, and Ken Blackwell, I guess he's just so broken up over Walter Williams passing on that he's turned the torch over.
Well, Sammy does have a record, but people can redeem themselves, but you don't redeem yourselves working for Foster Friess and John Kenneth Blackwell.
C.J. Pearson is the greatest speaker in the world. He's appeared at all these events too with Sammy's.
Well, yes, and
you got the new generation entering.
And also Sammy's alleged hypothetical theoretical relationship with Karl Rove. So, which Karl Rove, John Kenneth Blackwell, Sammy Davis Jr. And by Sammy Davis Jr. we're talking about Ollie Alexander. They're kind of all interconnected in many different ways. So next, I was browsing InfoWars to get some more news stories, and of course it comes up with explosive documents. Canadian Prime Minister requested Chinese troops to be stationed in Canada, Jason. Oh no, Jason. Oh no.
Well, that's actually that I do want to make the point because InfoWars does not pass the NewsGuard authenticity check. That actually is a real story. Justin Trudeau did make. It has been confirmed by NBC and other verified accounts that David Frum and people at the Weekly Standard and National Review and good legitimate Facebook fact checkers we can depend on have said happened. Yes, Justin Trudeau did reach out to the Chinese government and offered to house members of the Chinese military in Canadian bases to learn how to fight Arctic warfare.
So, yes, that wasn't really... yes, you are right. I did see that. But I wanted to ask you, who do you think was the first to break this story? It's out of Canada. Who do you think?
I'm guessing Ezra Levant.
That is correct. That's what really got me. According to Rebel News and Ezra Levant. So...
Seems about right.
So, yep.
Breitbart News.
And then secret military documents. Trudeau invited Chinese troops to train at Canadian military bases, which is, in my opinion, a stupid thing to do. China is Why would you? But so and of course Ezra Levant's book, The China Virus. Oh boy. And I guess getting a Millie Weaver that money. Whatever happened to that money? Does some of that money give back to the people?
I'm sure some of it was used for that bail that she needed after taking her mother's phone.
Yeah.
And terpsichore.
Yeah.
Gavin, what's his name?
So now we have Chinese troops where Trudeau was looking into them to get them, invited them to train with the Canadian military, which is something. Like, Canada should be quite upset about that. Like, that is Trudeau selling, globalist Trudeau selling the Canadian military, and they're, like, we shouldn't be training with China. That's United States or Canada. That's silly. That's silly. So,
I mean, this actually verifies, the authenticity. I mean, this is a little bit technical. I don't want to get too much into this, but when Trump did the steel tariffs on Canada in 2018, I guess. Trudeau was one of the first ones to run out and throw a tantrum saying it violated the joint action that Canada and the United States have enjoyed since World War I of deploying together in several theaters. And, because the way you have to authorize it on the executive level to do those kind of tariffs is just say it poses a national security threat. And I think anybody would say that a NATO member holding, military secret retinue with a power that, right now we are raising the legitimacy of whether they have blackmail information on a sitting congressman. They've exchanged gift exchanges, payments, and influence on the son of a former president, which also, allegedly involves some drug use and prostitution and perhaps some other issues. That would be a blackmailable issue. And then obviously the bugs in naval ships causing them to crash into each other at the beginning of the Trump administration. And they've hacked the Pentagon. They've hacked voter rolls. And yes, this actually does kind of indicate that, yes, Canada is not secure. However, I can't say Canadians didn't ask for this because they had an election last year. And it already was known that Trudeau was using his own personal accounts to illegally funnel Chinese money for the Liberal Party, and they still elected him. So, I mean, they asked for it. And Canada has paper ballots, guys. You can't do the whole Sidney Powell argument.
The Kraken with Dominion voting systems and
which is completely fabricated, and that is why the Pennsylvania court did not take it. I want to make
it and the Georgia lawsuit was thrown out, and Venezuela, Cuba, and possibly China, and maybe Russia, according to Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood and Roscoe Davis. Maybe, allegedly, hypothetically, that's what these people are claiming. They were involved with Smartmatic and the rigging of the election for Joe Biden, which is complete and utter.
Did not happen.
Which is complete and utter bullcrap.
Lynn Wood cited the Venezuelan election, saying it had already been rigged in favor of Maduro, and that the opposition was not even participating, and that people in Georgia should consider that tactic to show their disdain for a corrupted election process. So Lynn Wood is arguing, being the good Christian representative of the president that he is, that we should be like Venezuela. Abortion is illegal in Venezuela. I do want to make that point.
And I will say, Lynn Wood got a lot of flack because there's a possibility that all these shenanigans with Lynn Wood being a lifelong Democrat and Flynn being a lifelong Democrat, handing over the Senate to the Democrats, wouldn't that be the cherry on the top of the pie of how stupid the QAnon believers are? In a lot of ways, they're misguided too, don't get me wrong. But in their stupidity, they don't vote for... And look, Kelly Loeffler is part of the system. They're all part of the system, all right? But not voting for them is going to readily hand the Senate majority to the Democrats. Which I know, both parties, I know, I'm just saying appearances and all that. It's just when I'm taking things at face value here. It's mind blowing. Any thoughts, Jason and Assemblée V? Any thoughts?
You don't
Well,
think
just
Go ahead,
Lynn
Assemblée V.
Wood's defense? Can I say really quickly?
Yes.
Lynn Wood's defense of our democracy is as sound as his defense of the Ramses.
Oh, and Powell's defense of the Enron executives. All right, go on, Assemblée V. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to get a little thing in here for our Canadian cousins up north. You know, I pity the plight of the Canadian people, and I can't comment too far as criticism of Canada herself, because the psychological tyranny and oppression that they've been under for many years now is horrendous. And we're not one to scoff, as we're not too far behind them.
No.
And the degree of control and influence and willingness of the populace to subjugate themselves to that will. We don't have much further to go before we're in the same position, and it really pains my heart to watch a nation like that nation's people be treated that way. Same as in Britain and the whole of Europe, or most of Western Europe. And I'm sorry I dropped out there for a little while. My phone died, and then couldn't get back on, and I had technical issues. So forgive my absence and silence.
Okay.
So I'm just catching up now.
So we are building the clown world as we continue. Former Israeli space security chief says extraterrestrials exist and Trump knows about it. A galactic federation. Oh boy, Federation of Light, QAnon. This probably made Jordan Sather cream his pants. All right. Has been waiting for humans to reach a stage where we will understand what space and spaceships are. Ham Sheed said. And then, so of course, he actually mentions about bases on Mars. So Robert Steele also got very excited about that he was finally confirmed, and he can go back on all the shows now because they have sex slaves on Mars, allegedly. Robert David Steele said that on Alex Jones. So yeah, this is the continued disclosure, whether it would be real, which will be, them ushering in the fallen angels, or fake, being Project Bluebeam. This is just to continue people of making this, build the clown world. They tell you for years that aliens don't exist to get that push and pull together, and then now they do, but they're Galactic Federation of Lights. I mean, it's silly. Thoughts, you guys?
It's like the beach ball, the big inflatable beach ball that you see bouncing around at the rave party. Like, the crowd is so huge that if you only have one ball out there, like you see it and then it disappears and you don't see it for a long while, and then all of a sudden it's back again and you get all excited and you get to be part of it, and then it disappears, and they've been it's like a fish on a stick that they keep like baiting everybody with periodically. They're testing the waters to see when's the right time, when do we have enough people on board to buy into this. And I think they're getting pretty close, because people just don't have anything to hold on to anymore. And on top of that, they've got technology that they can utilize. They've got injections that could possibly aid in making people more amenable to believing a narrative that they would put out as such. And it could prove to be very, very useful as far as this heal the world agenda and global warming and this and that and the other thing. They've been using it as sort of a taunt or sort of a background. What did some of the earliest alien encounters and people who've come out to deliver the message from the space people to the Earth, and what is the theme we see recurring over and over in film and in media is going all the way back to what's that one from the 1950s or 60s? They redid it where the spaceship lands in Central Park.
The Day the Earth Stood Still?
Yeah. And it's basically...
Which is about nuclear threat, or the sort of Damocles, the forever sort of Damocles over our heads,
Right. And so the spaceman comes to illuminate and enlighten us to our responsibility to the universe and to our fellow man here on the planet, and how we have to stop all this senseless war and live in peace and stop polluting and yeah, it feeds in. It serves it could be the perfect mediator for getting the people to go along with fulfilling all the dreams of the new age agenda.
Yeah. What you need to build a cloud world, you need that Atlantean chaos magic and the Atlantean New Age, the Age of Aquarius. Anything you want to say, Jason? Did we lose Jason? Okay. We'll come back to Jason in a minute. Here's General Flynn. Tucker Carlson, keep digging. Maybe you'll reach China. Lynn Wood was right about Dominion. Just ask Sidney Powell. D&I Ratcliffe, stay on target. China is numero uno. Ensemble vide. Alright? Numero uno. Real Donald Trump. Real Rush Limbaugh says Chi-Coms. And he be right. And this was a retweet from Lone Wolf. See how China views Trump, Biden, and Wall Street DC elite straight from the horse's mouth. Remember what is at stake. We the people must fight for the truth in the land of the free or become satellite colony slaves for the CCP. It's 1776, which of course that alludes to martial law. Stop the steal. It's revolution. The second... Maybe they keep pushing the phrase. Flynn used to push the phrase the Second American Revolution. Second American Civil War we're in now. Martial law. Whatever you want to call. Thoughts? Of course, China, like Russia, is always the existential threat. No one ever mentions Israel, or the Vatican, or the Crown.
City of London.
So you have City of London. Nothing. No. It's either Russia or China, and it reminds me of 1984. We're always at war with Eurasia, and now we're always at war with what was the other
East
power?
Asia.
Yeah. What was the two powers in 1984 that they were? God, I can't remember.
It was East Asia and something else.
But so it reminds me of that. So, any thoughts on this, Ensemble vide?
I got a thought.
Go ahead.
5 eyes, burgers, and fries.
Yeah.
This is MI6 swapping with the CIA, the AIU in Australia. Let's see. In 1984, it was the People's Federation of East Asia and the Eurasian Union.
And that's a good back reference to Gamergate with 5 Guys, Burgers, and Fries. That was Mediker's video covering Gamergate. So back to Steve Bannon again. So I guess we've come full circle on that. But
always Bannon.
Yeah, well, it does somehow. A lot of the roads do read back to Bannon.
Man's got to stay out of prison.
Because a lot of the roads lean back to Rome. But go ahead, Ensemble vide. You got something to say on this?
Well, all right. So a couple of things. I guess since we're on the topic of Flynn, you pushed through a couple of tweets earlier that just like when I saw them, I remember one of them where he was using this really flagrant abuse of some biblical verses in relation to the state of Georgia.
Yeah, and the newest one that really got me, and I was when I went back to actually look at Flynn's 2016 Twitter, he keeps quoting Bible verses and keeps posting Bible verses, but if you go back and look at old Flynn, he never did that. Like, I want to do a video on comparing Flynn's Twitter and breaking down a lot of the esoteric stuff, but this was the biggest one recently. At Rick Warren. Well, Rick Warren's a new apostolic heretic. Offers a superior and important message that has great meaning for every one of us, especially at this crucible moment of United States history. And then he quotes Galatians 6:9, but specifically the New Living Translation. So, yes, yes, cognitive dissonance. I'm well aware of Israel and the tech transfer of the Belt and Road, and I am not a Zionist. However, I don't believe in a Jewish world order, and I do believe the Vatican holds power, whether you believe it or not.
Well, wait a minute. Ben Shapiro said that Athens and Jerusalem are the mandates of Western civilization.
Oh, that is true now. I mean, Benji's right.
Warren, who prepared the convocation for Barack Obama's first inauguration, let's not forget that. You know, I don't see him representing anything differently than the modernist revision of, destroying all our cultural symbolic indicators that Jordan Peterson is always warning us about when he keeps LARPing that, I live as if God were real, and I'm a non-professing Christian, even though in the 90s he clearly was calling it religious superstition and saying, well, I'm an atheist like all educated folk. But, you got to dig for those videos.
Yes, there have been some Protestant churches that have banned Freemasonry. If you talk about a collective whole, like a congregation, then no, but specific churches and their beliefs, yes. So, cognitive, interesting. You're a Catholic. I never thought that. Okay. I have no problem with that. You can choose to be a Catholic if you want to. I have Catholic friends. I disagree with Catholic theology in a lot of ways. But to say that the Catholics hold no power as far as the Pope, the papacy, and the Vatican is a little. They got power. They're a power player at the table. So
they're the largest real estate agency in the world. I mean,
I thought that was the crown. Ba-dum-bum. So any thoughts on the Gnostic pushing of Flynn and him, just butchering scripture and platform boosting the heretic Rick Warren and quoting from the New Living Translation, which is there truth in the New Living Translation in that specific translation of the Bible? Yes, it would contain the basic framework. However, I wouldn't use it. I have quite many issues with the New Living Translation. So it's just interesting that they chose that one over the King James Version or the New American Standard Bible, or even the English Standard Translation. Why specific the NLT? So I'm going to compare Galatians 6:9 from the NLT and Galatians 6:9 from the New American Standard Bible. But go ahead, Hassan Levy.
No, it's just it's becoming more and more disgusting. The extent to which they will further and further abuse these foolish Christians who are comfortably nestled in their gloves, because for me, being a professed Christian and being someone who takes it seriously and having a great disdain for charlatans and a nose for smelling them out, when I see this good-intentioned, good-hearted, decent folk being just raked into the nets of these disgusting people, it just makes me want to vomit, because they're preying upon, they're preying upon the goodness and the good intentions of these people, and it's and they're going to burn for it. It's just like when George W. Bush was in office and he would make these platitudes and phrases and statements where he would signal to Christians that I'm on your team.
Yeah.
And then reinforce his narrative and his goals. It's reprehensible. And, honestly, Christians should know better than to follow these types of people. I don't know what else to say right now. I'm just that gets my panties in a bundle for sure.
We literally are going back to the George Bush kind of news paradigm. That's exactly where it's going. And not to defend Chris Christie or his Bridgegate lawyer Christopher Wray or anything, but anytime Flynn comes up with these pronouncements, I can't help but think about the segment in Let Me Finish where they talk about bringing Flynn into the initial security briefings during the transition and how he commented on how he never listened to anything, ran his mouth over it, and appeared confused about everything going on. And that sort of, I think, summarizes the spirit of his religious pedagogy going on here. I think he's a confused man who should, at this moment, after his tribulations and Sidney Powell's inability to defend justice. So I believe the judge finally dismissed the criminal case today, finally, about 2 weeks after the pardon. I believe that Mr. Flynn should do less proselytizing and perhaps, sit in the back of the church a while before he starts trying to lead the choir.
Wise counsel, brother Jason.
Thank you.
Yeah, very much so. So, Assemblée V, do you want to discuss the E. Michael Jones versus Christopher John Bjerknes debate on No More News?
Oh,
Since
boy.
we both listened to it. Oh, boy, you guys ready? You guys ready for thoughts? I'll let you start.
No, John. I think you should start.
I don't want to start.
I need to feed off of your you present things a little bit more. I'm too embedded into the bits and pieces. Like, you do a good layout, and
okay,
and I can.
Okay, I watched this. I'm a fan of neither. Let's make that clear. However, in this debate, E. Michael Jones easily won and destroyed Christopher John Bjerknes.
Mm-hmm.
No
hands
doubt
down
about it. Christopher John Bjerknes got destroyed. And not even from me looking at it from me being a Christian and Christopher John Bjerknes being whatever the heck he is, full of the Antichrist spirit. That I'm taking that aside. Just in the debate in and of itself, take, my beliefs and Jesus Christ out of it. Christopher John Bjerknes was on the attack all the time. Made no coherent argument at all that I could see. It was quite sad that
it was,
Christopher John Bjerknes didn't even understand the Trinity, didn't understand Logos. He didn't even understand what he was talking about, didn't even understand Vatican II, Malachi Martin. It was just a real crap show, and he got destroyed in the comments. It's quite sad to see the hate that Christopher John Bjerknes has for
something that he doesn't even understand.
No, he
obviously.
doesn't. He doesn't even understand. And I mean, look, me being a former Gnostic, I don't even know where he's all over the place. Like, and he doesn't have any firm roots to grab himself onto. And so what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, first of all, he doesn't have any declared ground upon which he stands, which is, it's a sneaky sort of skepticalist position to take, and unless you realize that, you can get a little bit thrown off and think that they're making good arguments or good points. But if you're speaking to a ghost, an apparition of an argument is really what Christopher John Bjerknes represented in that debate. He represented an apparition, he was smoke and fog, and he was this wispy, thinly sewn together narrative, which, albeit he in the past, and even in with what he's claiming to present in his new book, is bringing forward some interesting data and information, perhaps, but the way that he thinly threads it together into this supposed narrative, I'm just afraid that I don't know. For me, I like novelty, and I like conspiracy theories, and I like novelty because it makes me think. It challenges my preconceptions. It challenges where I'm at. It allows me a scaffolding on which I can start to, test out ideas, or, be confronted with questions that are tough that nobody else has challenged me with before. So for me, being a thinker and somebody who's been into this kind of stuff for many, many, many years, not specifically the content of the debate with Bjerknes and Jones, but as far as conspiracy theory generally, and learning about different belief systems and esoteric ideas, it's very attractive. So I, for myself, enjoy that exercise. However, as far as legitimate claims are concerned, and a voracious argument, Bjerknes was completely empty-handed. He did present some interesting facts and ideas, and I have the benefit of having heard some of his explanation of what the contents of his argument are before this debate. So I sort of understood kind of where he was going, kind of what he was bringing. But
I know you've always seen a little something in Christopher John Bjerknes, where the first time I heard him, I was like, there's nothing to this guy. I can't stand him. He's full of shit. You and I've always had that debate, but I mean, this is, come on, you got to admit, Assemblée V, this was pathetic.
Well,
and as a Christian, he's full of the Antichrist spirit. He's blaspheming God completely, calling, Jesus Christ the son of Satan. It's ridiculous.
Well, he's claiming that that's what the belief system that he's bringing forth is not his own, but it's one that he's studied and is presenting for the benefit of people who don't realize that they're being influenced by. So he's kind of you can't grasp him. He's a wisp of smoke as far as where is this really coming from, and
he's a fence sitter.
Intention.
He's a fence sitter that won't give out his own beliefs.
I wouldn't call him a fence sitter by any means, but
I would say on that topic, yes, because he won't give out what he truly believes out to the world. He won't tell you what his true beliefs are in religion, even if they even exist.
Mm-hmm. Well,
he's not taking a stand either way. He's a piss in the wind. He's got no backbone.
Right. He's purely playing the skeptic, like I was alluding to earlier. He's playing the skeptic's sophistry. He's playing a lot of sophistry in a skeptic's strategy. So, what is being in that position? What they're there to do is to poke holes in your ideology and in your positions, undermine you with your claimed principles, while he himself is not adhering to or professing any stance or principles of his own. And so it's disingenuous, and that's why he very quickly went on the offensive. Once there was, as early as an opportunity for himself to be criticized, he went like rabid offensive.
Yeah, he called E. Michael Jones stupid or an idiot. And then when E. Michael Jones was like, "Hey, Christopher John Bjerknes, you're pretty much I'm paraphrasing. Your position is ludicrous or doesn't make any sense. And Christopher John Bjerknes like whines like he's attacking me, Adam.
No, he couldn't tolerate criticism at all.
No.
And I guess for my part, I'll say, I'll give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt, which I don't expect you to, or anyone
no,
else.
and I don't know why you aren't either. You being as strong as Christian as you are. Screw the guy. We don't need him.
Well, all right. So I appreciate anybody in any walk of life, wherever they are, coming from and whatever stage they're at. If I see an inkling of somebody trying to grasp for and actually making an effort towards trying to uncover truth and understand the world, I appreciate that. Unless they're obviously just a complete and absolute fraud who's there deliberately trying to deceive people.
And I believe that's why Christopher John Bjerknes is there with him.
Ben Shapiro or.
I think he is. I think Christopher John Bjerknes is. At least, I mean, we could even take it to a spiritual level. He's full of the spirit of the Antichrist, of the blasphemy he was spewing out of his damn mouth.
But is he a victim or is he a participant? That's the question.
That is the question, because he won't give us what he truly believes in.
Mm-hmm. No, but and I'll say it again. It's like I like novelty and I like the opportunity for a lively, fresh discussion.
Well, me too. I like debates as well.
And just like I've said before about like somebody like a Richard Spencer. I don't like or agree with Richard Spencer at all. But I do think that in the past, at certain points in time, he provided a platform or an opportunity for certain ideas to come out and be discussed in the forum where no other figures had.
Nah, he's a regular bitch boy.
He is. I'll give you that 100%. Like, I'm with you there. I'm just saying, as far as discourse is concerned, even some of the most depraved and disgusting people, and people that we, ideologically don't agree with at all, can still play a part in providing something meaningful. Not from themselves, but by dint of their existence there to create the opportunity for a discussion. So,
yeah, I agree with free speech that even Richard Spencer should be able to speak freely.
I don't think he has anything
as
to
much
say
as I find
anymore.
him. No, he doesn't. He's a detestable human being. But I mean, still, I just. I don't know, like, at least, Adam at least did ask one part to Christopher John Bjerknes. Adam was like, well, you're not really making any sense because, the Christians did, come at the Jews for centuries, so it's like, it was so bad. It was so bad. The whole thing was bad.
No, it was.
Michael Jones was caught off guard. He wasn't expecting it. He wasn't expecting it.
Well, that's the other thing. It's like Adam should have had the presence of mind to have given Michael Jones a little bit of information about Christopher John Bjerknes, because it seemed like Jones came in there just expecting to have a regular, kind of debate like he usually does. And then to be hit with this kind of a argument and narrative that just is like has never been presented before.
Yeah, the most weirdest. Like, even the Gnostics didn't even believe this bull crap. And then Christopher John Bjerknes keeps talking about Gnosticism, but at the same time he's like, well, Jesus is Satan, and it's like, well, no, they believed in Jesus, Christopher John Bjerknes. Now, some of them, granted, they held John the Baptist in reverence. I think the Manichaeans, maybe not. Hold on, let me look up.
Yeah, I think they.
And then they looked at Jesus. They looked at Jesus that way, but I was few and far. No, Mandeism. That's right. So the Mandeans, the people of last living the Mandeans, the last living Manichaeism, last living Gnostic religion. They do look at Jesus that way, but not the the majority of the Gnostic texts. No, they venerated Jesus. Now they got everything mistaken about it all, but they still looked at Jesus as being holy. So
yeah, I mean, their cosmology was kind of whack.
Whack is extremely whack, and extremely in error. But I mean, E. Michael Jones, I gotta give him credit. And it wasn't really hard. It was like Christopher John Bjerknes was his own worst enemy in this debate. He keeps punching himself. You know, it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and Jones did actually comport himself rather well. You know, at a certain point, you could have seen him just like throwing the mic down and being like, "All right, like what the fuck is this? I'm getting out of here. This is stupid. Like, are you serious?" But he's stuck in there, and you know, he honored his commitment, and I think he closed it up well. You know, he defended his position as far as like his position could be defended against a whirlwind of like not
of things that make no sense,
seeming chaos. So.
It was almost like he was. It was almost like he was throwing up word salad, you know, like George Webb. Just and you're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've watched a lot of debates, and you know, I saw some of the techniques and stuff that Bjerknes was using, but he, you know, and here's the thing that surprised me the most is, you know, based on some of the stuff that he's presented before, I expected him to be more knowledgeable and understanding of the content that he was presenting, as well as the ideologies and content that he was challenging. But like you alluded to earlier, like he had no conception of the ideology that he was assuaging like voraciously with his attacks. Like his attack, like he hit some technicalities and stuff, but he showed no understanding of what the meaning of this Christianity or these Christian beliefs that he was assaulting, wherein, you know, if he was sincere in trying to understand and sort all of this out, you'd expect him to at least have a basic common understanding of what these terms and beliefs entail, which he showed absolutely just like totally blind. And so that leads me to question, like, how can he then go back into these other ancient systems and have an understanding and interpretation that has any validity if he can't even understand still living belief, which has been well laid out theoretically and theologically, and is commonly accepted amongst a large portion of the globe. You know, it really starts to make you scratch your head and say, what is this guy? Is he a mirage?
Yeah. Yeah, I was, I don't know, it was not a good debate, really, by either one of them. E. Michael Jones destroyed Christopher John Bjerknes, though, if you're going to take it based on that aspect. The comment section...
did get a couple of good points in.
Pretty much...
Mr. Jones did.
Pretty much says that. Adam's a good interviewer, but as far as debate, most people said in the chat, and I have to agree with them to some degree, there was times where he tried to be impartial, but there were also times where he was trying to, you know, combine with Christopher John Bjerknes to go against E. Michael Jones. Yep. You know.
Yeah, he did. He was trying to get some digs in there. You know, while the pressure was on and the momentum was over, he was piling on. And, you know, I think, he's had a few debates on his channel before. And I don't know whether it's just because of the people that he chooses to do host the debates for, or whether it's
No, Michael, not
Adam.
every non-Christian in history was evil from a moral standpoint. It's not good enough for you to be saved, no matter what works you do. From that standpoint, not one is good. But to say that people who don't believe in God are evil, no, I never said that. I'm saying that Christopher John Bjerknes is blaspheming the Holy Spirit. There is a difference. Yes, that makes him full of the Antichrist spirit. In my opinion, yes, he is being evil, whether he realizes it or not. But people that I know that sadly don't believe in Jesus, that don't believe in God, do I think they're quote unquote evil? No. That's a narrow way of looking at what I'm trying to get across here.
No, there's a difference between evil and being in darkness or outside of the truth.
Yeah.
Most people, across all faiths and all belief systems, most people are just ignorant. And a lot of people, it's not their fault. People who do have knowledge and do have access to the truth have a responsibility to lead their brothers and sisters and to share that truth in the hopes of bringing more truth and light into the world, and raising each other up. And instead of using knowledge and truth as a weapon and preying upon those who are, in ignorance. And
yeah,
that's what we see mostly.
Yeah, there's a big difference between Christopher John Bjerknes literally saying that the son of Satan is Jesus Christ, which is blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. There's a big difference between that and someone like a friend of mine who is agnostic. There's a big difference.
Well, hold on a second. I mean, you're being a little... Maybe he's not saying he believes that's the case necessarily.
But he's putting forth that to lead people off the path to not look at Christianity that's a Jewish trick. So yeah, he is in a way.
He could be.
No, he is. He's his book.
It has that effect, yes, but is that his intent? I'm not sure.
No, that's his intent, or he wouldn't have written the book. He rabidly hates Christians in Ensemble Vitae. It's obvious.
Yeah, well, you can see him seething. But I guess, it comes back to the question again, like, is he seething because he really believes that all these systems are predatory systems, and he doesn't believe in any of them because all of them are evil? If that's his stance, that's a different perspective than it's a different perspective than him just being anti-Christian and wanting to promote, some sort of satanic ideology. So I think there is a distinction there, and I can't read the man's heart, and he hasn't come out and spoken plainly about what his real stance and position and beliefs about the world and the universe are. Aside from some vague notions about general goodness towards your fellow men.
Yeah, that was the same. Joey Lampholder asked the same question that Christopher John Bjerknes did. Was is Christianity not a Jewish invention? Yes, I mean the original, disciples were Jewish, but not everyone who joined the Apostolic Church was. There were many Gentiles who joined the Apostolic Church. And Gentiles that followed Jesus when he was alive and accepted him as the Savior. But the difference is thinking that compared to Christopher John Bjerknes saying that it's a Jewish trick. There's a difference.
Right, and to the fellow who asked the question, if he was the type of fellow to ask such a question, he should know better than that he must ask the question, what is Jewish exactly? because
the same thing that, you talk about the
dissecting
difference
that
between,
is-
the Hebrews and the Jews, all that together,
And not only that, our modern conception of quote unquote Jews, as being a cultural identifier, religious identifier, an ethnic identifier, a racial identifier. So, and it could be any one or all of those at the same time, depending on the situation, whether it's beneficial or not, and whether it's applicable or not. And as far as we'd have to sit here and have a 30 or 40-minute discussion to kind of parse through all of that and then get down to his real question about Judaism and what are Jews and what is that relationship to the time of the formation of the Christian religion and the distinction between, the Pharisaic tradition and the Christian tradition, which stands in direct, complete opposition to the Pharisaic tradition.
So did Jesus, but he came to fulfill God's law, but not the Pharisees' law, which was a gross misinterpretation and almost a self-adoration of God's law, taking it to the first extreme.
A wholesale corruption.
Yes.
It was a wholesale corruption,
yes.
And that's why they condemned him. Because they didn't want to stand to be judged.
No.
At all.
No. So in closing, you can watch the debate if you want to watch it. I don't know. Was it worth my time? Yeah, it was interesting. I'll say that.
Well, nobody. I mean, who's doing debates anymore, anyways?
That is true. I mean, Ethan Ralph is such a dumpster fire.
I saw him at that Trump rally in D.C.
Ugh.
I was right next to him.
I don't want to mention. I don't want to mention the things that he's been up to, but Ethan Ralph.
I heard. Yeah, I heard. And when I saw him, my skin kind of crawled a little bit. Like that's him.
But yeah, it's a real Ethan Ralph it's a real mess. And I miss what the kill stream used to be. I want a debate platform where people can come together with free speech, even people that don't agree at all, in the slightest bit, or have ideologies, and have them, have an honest debate. Even people that have controversial views. It's interesting. People that don't agree with each other, but you can't have that anymore because people get offended in the culture that we live in, I'm not a fan of Richard Spencer, Regnery, pictures of him with the bushes, and I'm not a white nationalist, but I do think, you could have Richard Spencer debating someone else that would be very much antithesis to his positions. And it would be interesting, That's the thing is they don't want that anymore. And we used to have that. You used to have the African American gentleman that used to go meet with the KKK. I forgot his name. He's famous for it, and they would try to just talk with each other, or how what's his name? Oh God, I his name. I'm getting tired. I can see his face. The famous. Bill Cooper. Bill Cooper would talk with anyone, and so it's a sad state of affairs where people can't have conversations anymore because we've been so polarized, even if we don't agree with each other, and it's just sad. There's no debates anymore. People, it's just sad.
That's by design. The black detective you're referring to is Ron Stallworth.
Yes, thank you. So anything else to say at the end?
Are we winding down the show?
Yeah, we're rounding down the show. Got nothing else, unless you guys want to finish with something.
Well, did you see the image I sent to you? I just thought it was rather funny that Sammy is blowing that kazoo.
I can't look at Ali Alexander's Twitter. He's got me blocked.
I sent you a screenshot, but okay, he had a rando ask him, which is your favorite fascist? And his answer was, the one not yet of age, reading my tweets as he plots to save America in January 2030. cites entering the based era, which is a viral video that Sammy did on YouTube, as his red pill moment, and Stop the Steal woke him up to his own potential. Very exciting. First of all, there's so many dopamine hits there, but the fact he didn't even do the classic deny, like that's not the direction we go, and then he just went on to drop as many Dugan symbols as he can. And I just had to share that, particularly with Ensemble Vide in the chat. That
I'm sorry, I'm not at the screen. Let me
oh yeah, well we don't have it up, but it just I can send it to you. It just this is funny how they're just playing mind games. There's a hearts and mind game thing going on, and I just think that
Nah, even if I try to open it, I can't see I'm blocked.
I know. Well, can you go into
I can't unless you post it in this chat. I can't get to it, so not on my computer. So
it's gonna be problematic then. So it's a funny aside, but I just think that the hearts and the minds for the youth continue.
I'm not a hypocrite. I'll debate Christopher John Bjerknes, Michael. I'm sorry you don't believe in Jesus. I'm not a hypocrite. I'm not super offended or triggered. I think Christopher John Bjerknes should be able to say whatever he wants and write whatever he wants. Have to face the consequences. I just don't agree with him, and I think he's an arrogant asshole. I'll debate him. So I mean,
well, it doesn't have to be a debate. Maybe you could have a discussion.
No, it'll turn into a debate. So.
A confrontational interview.
Yeah. So. But all right, everybody. We'll quick assembly video. You can close the stream of Building the Clown World.
All right. Oh, I thought you had something to say before I get to close.
No, go ahead and close. You good?
All right. Well, it is. I think we've covered a lot of ground tonight, and we are in a crazy electric 4D 3-ring whatever interdimensional circus right now. I hope that our voices out in the ether can, even though we're just haranguing against what is that old saying? Jason, maybe you can help me. Darn it. Well, I'm sorry.
It's getting late. Everybody's drawing a blank.
Rail against the darkness. Rail against the closing of the night or of the light.
Rail against the dying day.
That works. It's not the one I was looking for, but that works.
Period. It probably wasn't. You're probably doing an amalgamation.
Yeah, but I think the pursuit of truth and love of truth. I just found out recently. I looked up the Greek for that term, and it's funny that we all commonly hear the word philosophy, but which is philosophia or love of the truth, but we never hear the Greek word for love of truth, which is philaletheia. And that's one word I'll leave with the folks tonight. Word of the day, philaletheia. The love of truth, which is the path to philosophy, the path to Sophia, the path to the love of wisdom. We're all going to head down blind alleys, and we're going to get caught up by people taking advantage of us and leading us down crooked streets. But if we hold true to our basic principles that we start off with, if we have a good mooring post, if we speak to one another, and if we have the courage to challenge and correct one another when we feel that we're heading down the wrong path, like John is very good at correcting folks when he thinks that they're headed down the wrong path, and that's That's how we grow. But I guess I'll say a little prayer that may Lord of all creation, God the Father Almighty, bless, protect, and inspire all of us, and give us dreams of inspiration and wisdom as we lay our heads down to rest this night. And may our hearts all be drawn to the spirit of this season, where we acknowledge the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who is the hope of all mankind. And thank you, God, for our brothers John and Jason. And may we have many, many more nights to stream and pursue what's really going on here.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen. All right, everybody. Have a good evening. Take care. Talk to you soon.